Hello, Joe from Joe K Models here. Alright, so a lot has gone on since I last talked. Last time I chatted, I had the whole plane painted the bare metal silver, and as you can see, there's a couple more colors on here. And I just used this JA gray to go over the bare metal silver as well as the hairspray. The hairspray I did a couple light coats of. I still feel like maybe it was a little bit too heavy. And another thing is, once I had the hairspray on, it did take a couple of coats before the paint kind of settled in and actually became, opaque. When I had first put on the hairspray, it seems like when I airbrush, it activates the hairspray and it creates almost like, I guess like like you know how mud, when it gets like warm and it hardens up, it creates like the different like round shapes. That's kind of what was going on after I painted it, so I was a little bit concerned about that. But after a few coats, and I say a few, but it was actually more like, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 total. I was able to get it to a pretty good spot. This is how it ended up. You can see it's pretty opaque there. I don't really see a lot of texture down there, so I was happy with that. But it did take a couple of tries with that, and I did have the paint pretty thin, so that could be another reason for that. And then I decided to put on the main decals. Well, they're not decals. I painted on the main paint scheme here. As you can see, I have the Japanese roundel on here, the rising sun, and I just created a mask for that. So here's the mask that I created. As you can see, it's just a round circle, and it's just tape. I made a little square out of it. And basically all I did was I put a piece of tape down, and I have one of these templates, and I just figured out how big the circle was from the template. I put the template on the tape, and then I actually, a little bit embarrassed about this, but I don't have one of those round cutting tools, so I used a old airbrush needle, and I just basically cut a circle out of that. And then I ended up with this, and I wasn't too concerned about it being perfect. I mean, you can see if I kind of get close here, there's a little bit of overspray there, and it's definitely not perfect. I'll be the first to admit it, but I wasn't too concerned about that because, as you can see, when I've done the chipping, it kind of adds to the effect anyway. So I went with that, and pretty happy with how that's turning out so far. Another thing that kind of I'm glad I'm painting these on, because I don't know, but these decals got damaged somehow, and you can see like right here some of the paint came off, and then here as well. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to use some of these. Obviously I don't have to use a lot of them now, like I painted the stripes on and everything, but there's a couple here that I'm not really sure. I might have to get a little bit creative with those. And then I see a little bit of damage here, and these are ones that go like right here, so we'll get to that. I'm trying not to think too far ahead with these, but I was a little bit disappointed that happened to that, but we'll deal with that when the time comes. But as you can see, once I got everything painted and masked off and everything, obviously I'm not putting on a protective coat, because the whole point of doing the hairspray is I want to activate it with water, and then once you put water on this, the hairspray activates, and then you can basically take off the paint and get these paint chips, which is what I've been doing. And I've basically been using that old airbrush needle, as well as a couple of brushes. So I've been using these brushes, and basically with a stippling motion right here where debris may be hitting the front of the wing, maybe a little bit on top. And you just put some water on it, it activates it, and then it takes a couple tries. Don't get too aggressive or you'll take off big chunks or whatnot, but you can kind of get an effect like that. And different size brushes for different areas. With the airbrush needle, what I find this is really good for is kind of getting those panel lines. So just very lightly scraping across the panel lines once it's stamped. You can see how I've kind of been doing that. And that's just going to kind of add a little bit of a silver line there that's going to really bring out that panel line detail. So I got this side done. I wanted to kind of finish one of the wings just to kind of show the process that I did with this and what I'm envisioning for the whole plane. If I pull out my first attempt here, this paint mule, you can see like it was pretty drastic what I did with that. So I'm trying to go a little bit more subtle in those areas. So that's where we're at with this. Pretty happy with how much weathering is on this. I might stop pretty soon and then just basically repeat the whole process for the whole plane. And once we're done with that, I'm gonna obviously protect it. I'm gonna seal it up and then put on the rest of the decals. And yeah, then we're pretty much on to the engine, the cowling and all of that. And we're going to be putting this on a stand and having a kind of a dramatic showcase, which I'll get to more on that when the time comes. But this is where we're at, and appreciate you checking it out. This is Joe from Joe K Models. I'll see you on the next vlog. Talk to you soon.